Creating jobs is issue number one for the Obama administration. It's also a top priority for the nation's business leaders. As a member of the President's Council on Jobs and Competitiveness, Steve Case has the president's ear and also knows a thing or two about startups and hiring. Steve is the co-founder and former chairman of AOL. He is now the CEO of Revolution. Steve, all of the negotiations in Washington right now seem to revolve around tax policy. Tax policy as a way to create jobs, tax policy as a way to reduce the deficit, tax policy as a way to stimulate growth. Is that the right approach?
Well, I think that's part of the answer, but getting the economy moving, getting jobs moving, I think was predominantly about getting entrepreneurship moving. That the secret sauce of America for 200 years has been entrepreneurs. They've built our cities. The entire Fortune 500 started as startups at one point. So it's really, to me, getting the right policies around entrepreneurship in place, and tax incentives are part of that, but there are many other aspects to it as well.
No, okay, so you raise a key point for me. Entrepreneurship, are we talking about small companies? Are we talking about inventors, independent business people creating companies of their own and hiring people that way? Or are we talking as well about large existing companies, the S&P 500, for example?
Well, the Jobs Council is focused on all of it. They're really focused on trying to create jobs across all sectors. But my particular focus is around high-growth companies and around really entrepreneurship. If you look at the data from the Kauffman Foundation over the last 25 years, all the net jobs created, over 40 million jobs, have been created by these high-growth companies. So some of them are startups, really helping people get going. Some of them are ramp-ups, the kind of early stage of growth. And some of them are speed-ups, where these companies are really taking off. That's been the focus of my firm, Revolution, with companies like Zipcar and Living Social. How do you really take these ideas to scale? So it's a mix of startups, ramp-ups, and speed-ups. But the core really is around entrepreneurship, because the statistics demonstrate that that's really where the big job creation engine is. That's where the big tax revenue creation engine is. And that's also the best way to ensure our competitiveness in what obviously is a much more intense global competitive environment.
Steve, I know that is your focus, and there is room for intelligent policy when it comes to stimulating entrepreneurship from the federal government and other branches of government. But what about the large companies? Is it really Washington's job alone to generate job growth at the big companies, because they're making lots of money? I went back and looked at the past 4 quarters. The S&P 500 on average has grown earnings 34.5%. Why aren't these companies hiring more people?
Well, I think the big companies do have a significantly improved balance sheets and do have the capacity to invest. The question is what gets them off the fence, and I think a stabler financial environment, including trying to get some resolution on the deficit, probably would help there. But if you look at job creation, the Fortune 500, the large companies, are not big job creators. Similarly, if you look at small business, sort of the Main Street restaurants and dry cleaners, they're not big job creators either. They both account for a lot of jobs, but the growth really is in the middle with these high-growth entrepreneurial companies. So I think having more of a focus in D.C. around entrepreneurship is really the key message I've been trying to deliver to the Jobs Council and also to Congress. And our hope is we'll be working through the summer to try to formulate some proposals. We're taking all the best ideas out there, doing some analytics against them to figure out which really can move the needle, and we'll emerge in September with some recommendations to the President that hopefully will get bipartisan support to really put entrepreneurship front and center on our nation's agenda.
Well, Steve, give us a preview then. What can, in your mind, move the needle if it's not tax policy as far as entrepreneurship is concerned?
Well, one of the things we're looking at is how do you lift up some of the second-tier regions. So there's a lot to be said for these entrepreneurial ecosystems, Silicon Valley being, I think, the best example of that. We're seeing signs of progress in other regions around the country, but there are a lot of things that can be done to improve them. And there's 8 or 9 factors that we're analyzing through another initiative called the Startup America Partnership, and really trying to build out these regions. A couple of weeks ago, we announced an initiative called Startup Illinois. This week, we're announcing something in Tennessee, Startup Tennessee. So it's not just about the obvious places of innovation like Silicon Valley. It's how do you spread that more broadly through our nation and spread it to other sectors, not just focused on technology. Services and manufacturing are very important. There's a company not far from here, Under Armour, that's in the athletic wear business. They really started with the idea of a technology kind of improving clothing. They got a $250,000 loan guaranteed by the SBA, and they've been off to the races. And now they're a global company. So there's many examples of this that we need to celebrate, and how do we put policies in place to get more of those companies started, more of those companies in the ramp-up mode, but particularly a focus on these speed-ups. That's really where the leverage is in terms of job creation.
Steve, thanks for being with us on the Inside Track. Steve Case, the CEO of Revolution. He's on the President's Jobs and Competitiveness Council.